Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of Real Estate on Record with Mike and Steve Zolinardo here.
Good morning.
All right, first one out of the gates. Steve, so someone thinks their property's worth $2 million, but yet you say it's worth $1 million. What is the value of my property?
So that's a kind of a big stretch.
Yeah, that's very dramatic.
Yeah, if it's worth $1 million and they want $2 million, it's not a listing you would take,
Okay.
just
So what
squarely.
is the value of my property? How are you going to tell your sellers what their actual value is?
So I think that what we do is just it's a comparative market analysis. It's generic, like everyone, we all do it. Like every realtor is going to have to do this, but it's basically on past sales. We look clearly on this market. You're not going to go past like 2 months, maybe 30, 60 days to see if you can find. If you can do it in 30 days, you can find the last comps. It's going to be the best. You're going to look at that. So that'll kind of give you what a buyer's willing to pay for. You're going to look at what's currently listed because that's what's your competition naturally. And then also we're looking at expired and terminated listings because we want to see what happens because that'll give us sometimes strategy. If a bidding war was going to work or not going to work, if that price worked or did not work, how many times they adjust the price down. So it kind of gives us a clear picture of where we need to be with pricing. Because at the end, we can stage and video and photo and do all kinds of stuff, but ultimately it's price that's going to get the house to sell naturally.
Steve's famous line is, "We got to be sharp on pricing."
Sharp.
That's your famous
Sharp.
sharp
This
as
year
in
we're sharpening.
realistic, or as in knowing what the demographic of that home is.
Realistic, being realistic.
Realistic.
Yeah, if you're not realistic, you're gonna just people are just gonna overlook
Okay,
your.
but then
Well, you have to be sharp this year, or you're just gonna sit on the market. It's very simple.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So look, last the 22 year, even 21 and 22, you didn't really have to be skilled in anything in real
No.
estate. People made so much money. I remember I got Titan Award, whatever it was last year, and I was like, this is not realistic. This is based on inflation. I'm a chairman agent. I know how much input I put into this because we're doing a million other things. I only have so much bandwidth I can put towards real estate, but I'm a chairman. This is Titan, and I think you can even see it on my Instagram stories. So you could have been, as long as you were able to kind of get someone to sign a contract, and it wasn't like you used much skill. We're going to stage it. We're going to do this, and we're going to list it here. And it was like bang, they would sell, and they'd sell it for X amount of dollars, and then ultimately everybody was a hero. The problem is too, like even though that market was amazing and amazing for realtors, I wouldn't even say amazing for buyers and sellers. It was good for real estate agents because of the inflation.
On the listing end.
Listing end, correct? Yes. Reality is that I lost train of thought.
Sorry.
Mike, you fucked it up.
Sorry.
I don't know where I was going with that. Wait, I think I'm getting a senior moment. Like I gotta have to take some more alpha brain. No, it's an alpha brain. I'm like on 2 pills a day. I gotta take I jack it up to like 6. I gotta figure that shit out.
And how should I prepare my home for showings at said property?
So obviously decluttering. The worst thing is going into a house where there's like things that like Nana's couch that you use on a daily basis and it's ripped and you don't. It smells like just get rid of it. Declutter. Less is more.
Smells.
Yeah, and it happens all the
Put some
time.
baking soda on it.
Yeah, and cleanliness. Cleanliness is a huge thing, right? When you walk into a house and you feel crumbs on your feet. Like I went into one in Woodbridge, just say like 2 weeks ago, and they had an offer date and everything, and the house was nice. The renovation was fairly well done, but you can tell the people just the way they live. It wasn't a showroom. It was.
You were with the seller.
I was with the buyer, and I got crumbs on my feet, right? So it takes away from like the renovation. It's true.
You don't want to be rude, like to keep your shoes on, but like you try to.
And where was your train of thought?
So train of thought was, so even though that agents were selling for like crazy pricing, because look at this, what you just told me, that agent listed for $999 and expecting 1.6. That's too much of a spread. Agents were doing that and selling. If they kind of priced it maybe more accordingly, let's just say, they probably would have done a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, look, we sold for 600K over maybe at that time, but maybe if they listed for 12399 or something like that, they would have sold for 1650, 17. Like, there's always money on the table, and this is why even in that market, paying an agent that actually has some sort of game plan and understanding of pricing and getting people to pay more money is always going to benefit them more. Because I know everyone's kind of stuck on commission and saying, "Oh, I want to." These agents were, especially if you get into Brampton, it's like the Wild West there. Half a point, or they'll even do the sale for free, but to get the purchase, which is wild in a market of 22. Like you talk to some of these, sellers that want to deal directly, with an agent from Brampton, and you're trying to show your value. Some of those agents they slaughtered they slaughtered the seller in that process where they were not able to maximize the full potential value of that property based on negligence and not having a good idea on pricing.
Okay, so now in this segment, we're jumping and we're going to talk about what is the purpose. That's what this segment's about. So I'm going to give you a bunch of questions as to what the reason for this is, and you have to give your educated answer. All right. So Steve, you're up first. What is the purpose of a listing agreement?
Of a listing agreement?
What's the purpose of it?
So a listing agreement, it's so important because look, not everyone's going to remember of what terms you've talked about. Like, this is why it's so important. I talk to clients, and we talk about all the commissions, co-op and the listing side of the commissions, and also if we were to double end it, everything's pre-printed, written, and it's all agreed upon there. Because look, when you list a house now, like even some of the houses were listed for 6 months, I don't remember what those contracts. You have so many you're looking at. I don't know what the commissions are. I know what we agreed on at that time. And then, so what that does, obviously, put terms into perspective where there's no, let's say, surprises on closing. Because even sometimes, like, we have to mention too, like, remember, like, it's any service in the province of Ontario you're paying HST on. So if you're charging, for example, 5% commission, there's HST on that. We don't take that money. That money goes directly to our best friend, the government. So it's not. Like, you got to make sure your clients understand, like, the expenditures. That's the big one. Because obviously your list price is going to be on there too, your commissions, and also the length of the agreement. Like, you want to know, like, it's a 90-day agreement, right? And there's a holdover period of. So we'd like to do 180 days because that's what I've always done for the last 13 years. But
180 days is a long time.
But it doesn't hold the property. It just holds the buyers we introduce. Because even like, Mike's got a young family. My family's now, I mean, they're still young, but they're, like 7 and 11 kind of thing, right? So it's like in the beginning, like if I'm leaving my family at home, I got to make sure I'm bringing something home for them. So what happens is some buyers will kind of leverage you to do the deal through one of their agents. So they'll have you come out, show the property, and then ultimately you're going to get an offer by their agent. So it doesn't make sense for me to leave my family. So I make sure I'm protected. And that's nothing to do with the seller. That's to do with buyers wasting our times, right? And you know what? I'm very clear with that. I'm a little bit very upfront. I'm like, hey, listen, if you got a realtor, call them. Like, let them deal with it. Like, I don't want to complicate things because I'm representing the seller here. I don't want to tell you information or anything like that or have your information provided to my seller. If you're going to be doing this deal through another agent, and again, Brampton's very notorious for this, where it's like, oh, no, I'm going to deal with you. And then you see the offers come in. And you know what happens when there's multiple offers and you see a buyer that kind of wasted your time, lied to you. You already forget about if they pay the most and it's got the best condition and terms, you're going to suck it up because it's for your seller. But ultimately, you already know where that buyer's going. If there's two offers neck and neck and one was already took you for a ride and the other one's like straightforward, you're going to go with the straightforward offer. So they've automatically lost that just based on their behavior.
Mike, what are my costs as a buyer?
As a buyer, your costs are, for the most part, you're still paying it for it in the end, but it's like commissions and stuff are paid on by the listing side, right? So we do get paid by the seller, but in the end of the day, you're purchasing the property. Now, you also have land transfer tax as a buyer. So depending which area, if you're in Toronto or use Vaughan as, for example, Toronto's double the land transfer tax. We have also lawyers that we have to pay for, or now there's a lot of closing centers, but lawyers typically on the buying end also. And then any other more buyers and stuff I'm missing?
No. And then land transfer tax,
Land-
you mentioned, lawyer fees. What else? Stewart Title Insurance, which is part of the lawyer fees.
Oh yeah, all the lawyers.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's it. And then
Moving costs.
moving costs,
Moving
yeah.
costs.
Steve, this is a big one because you and I have gone through this. Why should I get pre-approved for a mortgage? Bullshit.
I always stress the point to get pre-approved to get a mortgage, and it's nothing. You know what the okay. Look, so financing is a touchy subject with everybody, and me too. Like you don't want to be like sometimes you feel like people are kind of classifying you as something like, oh, you can't afford it. It's not the case. I know how difficult it is to deal with banks personally because I don't do just personal like just one property. It's multiple investments. I know the difficulty. It's the one of my old mentors, like in real estate, and we still own a property together. He was like, as long as you can get the mortgage, you're good. That's your biggest problem. If you can get it at an A bank or a B bank or a private lender, who gives a shit? Just get the mortgage, get the property. That's what he always stressed. And this is why I stress to clients, like, and I'm not trying to classify anybody. It's just like, go through the process. They're going to ask you for like 10 or 15 different documents. You got to provide them. They might uncover something that you didn't know, that I didn't know. So ultimately, like you're going to be out, you're going to submit an offer on a property, you really love it. And ultimately, it's undoable. You're left scrambling, and it's this whole stressful period. But this you're going to have to do that period at some time. So why not do it prior to the actual search?
Is he wrong?
No, he's 100% right.
Oh man.
Because the worst thing is going to work with someone that thinks they are approved for X and they end up actually being approved for Y. They fall in love with the house, and then ultimately they can't afford it, and then they just takes all the
Yeah.
air out of the balloon, right? And it's just hard moving forward after because then they're comparing everything to the one that they first fell in love with that they couldn't afford to begin with.
And so that's even like and we'll talk a little bit about like so banks are obviously they're not equity lenders. They're going to be based on income. They're so I remember right. So I remember even the back like so I don't know like how much the real estate that I have $10 million worth something. It was like at some point it was up there. But try to get a mortgage. They're never going to look at my equity. And it wasn't like let's say $10 million worth of real estate, and it was like leveraged at 80% of it. It was probably more than half of it paid off. So it was good equity, like good value there, right? And then we obviously were commission based, but I run like a sub branch brokerage, so I pay myself as an employee because tax reasons, naturally. So,
Of course.
wow, for sure.
How
2016, we were the OGs of this, like being smart with taxes. But ultimately, I pay myself enough money I need to survive. So when they look at me, they look at me as unqualified, even though if you're making $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year in commissions, and then you're paying yourself a fraction of that, and you're holding all this equity in property and real estate property and passive income and all this stuff, but they don't look at any of that stuff. They look at it like
What did Steve Zolanardo come
yeah,
out
how
with at
much
the end of the
income? If I was, let's just say, a government employed, let's say teachers are the best, anything employed by the government, like police, firemen, teachers, anything
Yeah.
like that, that is like a solid deal.
Yeah.
They'll do TDS ratios like you've never seen before, up to like 53% we were seeing at some point, right? So that's it. That's why I stress the point, because we don't know the full picture until it's actually dealt with by a professional. They're going to put it into file, then they're going to send it to the underwriter. The underwriter is going to look at it. He's going to make changes, or she. They'll make more requests, and then at some point you'll have the conclusion. Like when I bought in Florida originally, like I didn't like I want to know for sure. Like I'm not going to get stuck in the U.S. with a property. Like I don't know that market, especially last year. So I went through the process, and it is tedious. It is tedious. Like the amount of documentation. Thank God I got a personal assistant that just keeps supplying what they needed. But ultimately, they appraise a property 3 times prior to closing. Like it was this whole thing. But we got an amount that we can afford. So it was like that 400 USD mortgage amount, which is good. So now I knew where I was going to be, and I can afford. Even with and we didn't buy like 500,000. We bought at like 400. So we left $100,000 gap just based if anything were to happen with the market. And thankfully we did, because at that point our rates were like 3.6% for a 30-year AM. So for 30 years you pay 3.6%. And then people will say, oh shit, how much would that interest be when you got to break that mortgage? It's a $500 cancellation fee of that mortgage. You can get into a new mortgage.
And how much
Welcome
is
to
it
the
here?
U.S., baby.
How much is it here?
Oh, 30. Imagine locking in for 30 years the interest.
You get killed.
You might as well like
We're talking thousands.
you might go to Moscow. What's that clock say there? You're gonna have to just run away.
All right, last question.
or
for
one of
this
these
segment.
countries there.
Last question for the segment is, Mike, we'll jump to you, okay? What happens once I'm ready to make an offer? Once I've been pre-approved and I'm ready to make an offer? What do I do?
So obviously we're pre-approved, ready to go. So we're gonna need to know terms and conditions. So terms, we're gonna probably need to know the obviously purchase price. Seller's closing is a big thing. To if you're hopefully your closing and their closing could line up, or we can massage it or get a bridge in between to make it work. Deposit amount is big. We like to put 5%.
Inspection?
I'm getting there. The deposit amount is what we like to put 5% really. Obviously home inspection and financing. Even though we're pre-approved, we still want the bank to take a look at the document, like to make sure the house is going to appraise and get all that stuff done prior to going firm, right? Because at that point we could still have that escape route to get out of the deal if we can't afford it. And then obviously home inspection, right? Home inspection, we want to make sure the house is not falling apart, the roof's in good shape. The bones are the biggest thing, right? Roof, windows, electrical, HVAC,
Why
furnace.
did I challenge you right on the home inspection right away? Because I've dealt with a bunch of realtors that they say the very first thing you should do is get a home inspection. Do you agree?
What do you mean prior to the offer?
No. So the question was, what happens once I'm ready to make an offer? Should I right away say, wait, before I even think about anything, now that I have a pre-approved, let me get an inspector to make sure everything is good before I go
No,
forward with anything?
no, because you have a condition. You can back out on the deal. Yeah.
Who sets the condition?
Oh,
In our offer.
We do, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you set the
Yeah,
condition?
Yeah,
And
it's
sometimes what is that condition?
It's 5-day condition.
business days.
Yeah. So you have an opportunity. So you don't know what the property holds, right? Imagine you do a pre-inspection and it's like, what are you doing here? Like, and then someone else puts an offer in the firm deal and they take that offer, so you're out like $500-600, and you wasted a day. As a real pre-inspections are obviously if the market's hot, like you got a 7-day period of holding back offers, and if you want to do your inspection, do it. Like they'll allow you to go in there. That might be a good option, especially in like elder properties in Toronto and stuff like that. Pre-inspection, yeah. So the rule of thumb is to be a C student in life. Don't try to achieve the A's because you're gonna. It's true as an entrepreneur, honestly. But anyway, so hey guys, thanks again for watching these episodes. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, Mike. You can leave us a comment here on YouTube, and yeah, please like, share, and subscribe. Obviously, we're gonna keep hammering these videos out for you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Ciao.